everyone. I want to welcome you all to the B5 corner of the SpeakerCon conference. Thank you so much for joining me. Now, I'm Pamela McCoy, founder of Bonafide Credit Consultants, LLC, and B5 Reaffirm. Now, during this time that we have together, I'm going to be your MSI, Mind Shift Initiator. And what I mean by that is I can't make you think different, but my goal will be to provide you information that will perhaps shift your mindset to allow you to think about some things differently, or perhaps consider some things that you've never considered before. So during this time, I'm going to prepare you to unleash your undeniable impact. Now, I know it's there, just under the surface. So though I'm going to be speaking generally to females, I want to acknowledge the males in the room. Hello, guys. How are you? Welcome, welcome, welcome. And I want you to know that you too are in the right place, because even though you're not a female, I know you have females in your life that you love and you care about. Perhaps it's a wife, a girlfriend, or a fiance. Maybe it's a daughter, a mother, auntie, sister, cousin, or maybe even a coworker. So there is value in your being present as we talk about self-esteem. So now, before I dive in and start talking about why B5 and what it is and why it's so important, and how statistics such as suicide being the #2 cause of death in people between the ages of 10 and 34. Now that's equivalent to about 1 death every 11 minutes or so. So in real time, what that means is during this time that we have together, there's going to be at least 1 death by suicide. So I want you to ponder that alarming statistic for a moment. As I share an excerpt of my story, a pivotal point in my life that led me to not only discover these alarming statistics, but many others, as well as it unveiling my purpose for impact. Now, I didn't connect all the dots at the time, but you'll follow through with the story and see how they connect at the end. Now, it started on a rainy Sunday morning, a few days after Christmas, December of 1984. That's over 35 years ago. Oh my gosh, I think I'm dating myself. But anywho, I got up early that morning, had breakfast with my family, got the car all loaded up with all of my things I brought home for college break, for Christmas break, and those additional things, so you know, the gifts that I got over Christmas and those special homemade goodies. I headed out for that hour-and-a-half drive back to North Carolina State for my 2nd semester as a freshman. And as I drove down the driveway with my family waving, I remember thinking, I almost didn't come home for Christmas break. I was going to do something else, but I was so glad that I did, because I had enjoyed my time at home with friends and family. It had been raining all that morning, but at that moment when I left, it wasn't raining. So all was well when I departed. And then it happened. Less than 5 miles from my parents' home on a city street. And why is that important? Because the speed limit was only 35, right? 35 miles an hour. I was hit head on by a drunk driver. It was like a scene out of a movie. The car was smoking. I thought for sure the car is going to blow up with me in it. Long story short, fire and rescue and the ambulance came, and they had to use the jaws of life to extract me from the car. My nose was open like a book. My collarbone was broken. My knees were messed up. My pelvic was injured. All of that in just a split second, or so it seemed. And oh yeah, I forgot to mention the guy who hit me. Of course, he wasn't injured at all. In fact, he had open alcohol in the car at the time of impact. And remind you, it was on a Sunday before noon, right? So I don't know if that was left over from Saturday night or just what was going on with this guy. But when it was all said and done, I had to have my nasal passage reconstructed, which left a scar in the center of my face. I had to wear this uncomfortable brace that pulled my shoulders back to keep my collarbone straight while the bone was healing. And I had to address my fear of driving. And when it was all said and done, I ended up sitting out a semester in the summer. So I was on the 5-year plan of graduating from college, but I did graduate. So at this point, you're probably wondering how my accident, the statistics, and self-esteem all kind of tie together. Well, for me too, I now understand what I didn't then, that what occurred December of 1984 had to be. It had to be to prepare me for my I'm me journey, improve my mental esteem. Now, what I do today, it influenced that. it also lends itself to what I refer to as my assignment from the big guy. And in that assignment, in the last 12 months alone, amidst the pandemic of all things, I have been blessed to serve almost 500 females from as young as 12 years old to the other end of the spectrum, young seniors in their 70s, right, in the area of self-esteem. Now, being able to share my story and all of the tragedy around that, that in spite of having this scar down the center of my face, I finished college. I've been married for almost 30 years to the love of my life, who I refer to as my heartbeat. I've had a successful corporate career. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a mom. I'm a Nini. And as of September the 8th, I'm a grand Nini. Because how one person thinks and feels about themselves is fundamental in every aspect of our life. And so if there's no one there to affirm you, no one to be that cheerleader in your corner, I need you to know that you can do that for yourself. It's all about positive self-talk. Self-esteem is not considered a mental health disorder, believe it or not. It's considered a thinking disorder. So we've got to shift these mindsets, because self-esteem, when it goes unaddressed, it escalates to anxiety and depression, which are identified as mental health disorders. So the reason I focus on females, even though the reality is we all, male and female, young and old, struggle with self-esteem at some point in our lives, 7 in 10 girls believe she's not good enough or doesn't measure up in some way. And 53% of girls in the US age 13 that participated in the study are unhappy with their bodies. And by 18, I think that number goes up to like 78%. And then you fast forward to adulthood, 66% of women in prison reported having histories of mental illness. And that number is almost twice the percentage of men in prison. Now, keep in mind that all this data that I just talked about is pre-pandemic. So can you imagine what that data is going to reflect when you consider when businesses and schools were closed, and unemployment and financial strain and isolation and all of that was going on? Millions experienced anxiety and depression for the first time, while others, the conditions just worsened, right? Because they were already having issues pre-pandemic. So my question to you is, can I count on you and you and you to join me in starting this community conversation around self-esteem, to teach some and to remind other females that she's enough, and that my B5 mantra applies to her too, that she should repeat this every morning as she looks in the mirror, that I am a B5. And what is a B5? It's a bona fide boss with brains, beauty, and a believer in me. It's time that each of us now go forth and unleash your undeniable impact, not just for ourselves, but for others that we are blessed to serve in our businesses, or simply we cross paths with them in our day-to-day life. We are, each and every one of us, on this journey that we call life, not to be selfish, but rather to be selfless. Kindness, mindfulness cost us nothing, but they have immeasurable ROI, return on those investments. We don't need to have an alphabet soup behind our name to offer a listening ear. And just offering that listening ear can prevent someone who's struggling with self-esteem and those issues from escalating to the mental health illness of anxiety and depression. And wouldn't that be a wonderful thing? So I want to thank you again for your time. I'd love to stay connected with you and invite you to pop over to b5reaffirm.com to enjoy the free download of some affirmations, as well as 10 tips on how to build and boost self-esteem. God bless, stay positive, be kind. Pamala McCoy.